Okay, we're recording. I'm Lauren Van Mullum from Truer Words by Lauren. I am here with Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies. And we've been talking the past few days over Voxer about so many things. I think our conversation started off when I tackled your sales page for your 6-month mentorship program. And and I asked you what's going on with the boat. You were kind enough to explain it. So today we are going to be talking about headlines. And but the way I would describe a headline, it's like the big first line that you see, and maybe it's got a tagline attached, but it's the top of whatever page you're working on. It's the top of your sales page, the top of your home page, the top of your services page. And we're going to look at a few different kinds of those. Some of my clients have graciously allowed me to use them as examples. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's go back and forth. We'll do kind of, one for one. But you choose, up to you.
Okay. I kind of want to start with Rebecca Tracy's.
Well, and so maybe before we dive in, just to say a few words in my mind around the headline. When we look at marketing, there's this kind of the problem, the premise, and the promise. There's the relevance, the credibility, the value, the empathy, the context, the guidance. It'd be my framework. And so the headline is the thing that establishes the relevance. The headline is the thing that lets them know that you get it, that what you're offering has something to do with them, whoever your ideal client is. This is what really names the problem and or the result. And what you're seeing right now is what you'd call above the fold of Rebecca Tracy's website, meaning this is what you can see when you just go there automatically. And whatever's above the fold, and that's below the fold down there.
There's so much below the fold. This is the part we're talking about.
And so this is the first thing they're going to see. So of course this, there's what's called the bounce rate. And the bounce rate is how long do they last on your website if they just showed up as a strict random click. And it's about 3 seconds. People don't last very long. And so the relevance has to be established quickly. Something about the images and the words together have to have them want to scroll down. That's actually an immense achievement. And and so since Lauren was kind enough to take the time to look at my mentorship sales letter, comment on it, we had these conversations and just thought, what could we offer up? And there's a lot to say about copywriting, but I think the headline is the main thing, because this is when I'm working with my clients anyways around their copy. There's so much work. This is the fruition. This is like the blossom of the whole thing, of all the work that goes in. And finally, we find a few words on top. And as you'll see in a lot of these examples, it's often really simple, but that's what makes it work. It's simple, it's clear, and has them, and it's speaking to something that is either painful or inspiring enough that they'd actually want to do something about it.
Can I ask a question real fast? How long does it take you to write the headline versus how long it takes you to write everything else? Like, do you spend more time on this little tiny bit of copy?
Yeah, no, definitely. But I keep coming back to it. I find with my clients, I'll be working with them on a lot of this stuff around their niche or their ideal client. And that's one of the ways I'm doing it, is I keep trying to find what's the one thing, what's that one thread, what's the one issue that ties together everything. It's kind of the string that ties together the bouquet. What is that string? And I keep looking for it. And so I just keep experimenting with it through the whole process. And I'll try ones, I'll scrap it, or they'll scrap it. And then sometimes we go deeper into the point of view work. And sometimes then that actually changes the headline. So it's not like it takes, I ever sit down and say, now it's the headline. It's more like throughout, I just keep fiddling with it. And then we'll go deeper into, I'll come back and we'll rearrange it. So it just keeps going. And there's usually a certain point, and sometimes it happens very quickly. Sometimes it can take months. Something clicks, and like, that's the thing. And so some of the examples I'll share feel like it was once that landed, we could just lean back and then go on to the other things. But until that's there, it's very difficult to move on, in my experience. So when we're talking about headline, I think we're talking about niche as well. In some
Yes.
ways, they're synonymous, but the headline is just you doing the best to, at least at a high level, articulate the niche in such a way that your people would feel seen.
So it's almost like you're trying to encapsulate the heart, the beating heart of whatever you're trying to sell, and you're trying to do that in a very tight amount of words.
Yes. The beating heart of what we're trying to sell, but also the beating heart of what they're going through, the beating heart of the experience of the person who's coming to the website, and probably more the latter than the former. If it's a service, if it's a product, maybe a slightly different thing. But yeah, we're trying to, what is the heart of their experience that they are going through? Less about what we're offering and more about what it is they are craving.
Oh, I love that, the heart of their experience. And the way I approach headlines, there are so many different ways, but they all are different paths to getting to that outcome. This one, for example, is very what the reader deeply, dearly, desperately wants. And I love how it's just like these three things, like get clear, get confident, and finally. That's the real kicker in finding clients.
Yeah, I agree. That's the part that jumps out to me in that headline, is the finally get clients. Because I think that's it may be useful for people. I often think about it, if I had my clients drunk at a bar, I said, what's your deal? What's the problem? Tell me about your situation. What would they say kind of 3-4 beers in? And probably something like this, like, can I just get some fucking clients finally? It would probably sound something like that. I just want to
say this is the best kind of market research I've ever heard, and I think everybody needs to go out and do that once bars are open again.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. That's the part that jumped out. And also similarly to that, you're so ready for this business to work already. And it's the already, so you're hearing an impatience. You're hearing, I've been doing, implied in this is the story of, I've been doing stuff, I've been working on it, it hasn't been working. What the hell? What's missing? What's wrong? Because I am trying. There's clearly they've already been trying for a while. And and they're probably at the point where they're realizing I'm not clear about what I do actually, and I don't feel confident about it. And I know that because I go to speak about it and I can't, or I don't speak about it because I feel so shy about it. So yeah.
I love that emotional resonance of I like to include emotion when I can, meeting them at the emotional place where they are when they come to the page. And the emotional place where I think they are, and I think she knows, they're frustrated.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Can we talk a little bit about yours, about your headline?
Yeah. I'm not convinced, this is good for everyone to know. Sales letters, homepages, these are living documents. And we constantly tinker with them, properly so. And
yes,
you'll have something you're happy with at one point, and then you'll find a truer, better article. So I'm not sold on this as the best one, but the tired of spinning your wheels, that's what I've seen with so many of my clients. They came to me, I've been doing this for years, I can't seem to get traction. It never seems to really click. It never works. It never, fully lands. And so there was that, and there may be a way to say it that's a little more on point. But then the main thing is these people who are seeing this website, they already know who I am. So that's an important context for everyone to hear.
yes.
I send it to my email list, but they're already on my email list. This isn't my homepage. This is for people who've probably already been on my email list, done programs with me, done a one-on-one session with me, been to live workshops. So they already get it, and they're already interested in working with me. And now they're just kind of, well, what would it be like to work with Tad? So to me, in a certain way, I'm just trying to be a little cut to the chase here of, you're here because you want to work with me in a more in-depth way. Great.
So 2 questions. The exact quote, tired of spinning your wheels. My guess when I was looking at this page was, that sounds like client language. That doesn't sound like something I've heard Tad say a ton of times. That sounds like something I could hear his clients saying, and I bet that's where that came from. Is that where that came from?
Yeah. I mean, literally, I think I cut and pasted from something somebody sent. And if I were
Perfect.
to redo it, I might put it in quotes and say, "I'm so tired of spinning my wheels!" Exclamation mark, close quote.
Yeah, and notice that you that's. I love the statement. I love a power statement. Questions. So many people use questions to start a sales page. It's like when those infomercials, like, "Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling sad about your life?" And they go through like all of these things that everybody feels at some point, and it's a list of questions.
Sure.
And statements right now, and I think this is going to change because things shift. I think right now statements are having a moment because questions have had their moment. But then again, I'd love to be proven wrong.
It could be. No, I think there's something, powerful just saying the thing. But yeah, so that was my thought on this page.
Yeah. But yeah, I love what you say about, this is a page, this is above the fold for warm leads. And it's not gonna make or break you, that header, when your leads are as warm as they are when they come to this page.
No. Yeah, I agree.
I love that. That's such a good point to make, because so often, especially copywriters, we're so guilty of this. We like to pretend that all the sale happens on the page, and if you have the perfect page, you're going to make the sale. And there's so much work outside of that page that has to happen for people to come in warm enough to give you a chance.
Amen. It's true.
Okay, so I'd like to brutalize my own services page. Don't hold anything back. I can take it.
Let's see. Truer words, copy services are designed to grow with your business. Do you need words on your website but know in your bones that they will likely need to change at some point? It's perfectly normal and expected. So they'll likely change at some point. So why are you saying that there?
So this is actually me taking a stab at using point of view, which we've talked a bit about on Voxer, and we definitely want to talk about now. But so my big point of view shift happened a couple months ago, where I was seeing that my clients who spent a decent amount of money on their copy were not able to actually use their copy. And that's not because the copy wasn't good. It was because their business had changed that fast. They changed their niche. They got more clarity. They figured out other services, and they couldn't use the copy because the copy was about that original idea.
Mm.
So my argument is that copywriters are not really supporting people with, at that stage. And this is newer coaches. Those are the people I love working with. And their businesses are evolving so quickly as they're getting more clarity and better understanding. So I wanted to create services that supported that, and that I didn't see other copywriters doing, because they want to sell, first of all, much higher ticket items. Like, they want to charge 2 or 3 times what I do and work with coaches that can afford that. And that's not my area of interest. I like the work in progress.
Yeah, there's something that came to me was I just think it's now, how many of your clients have had that experience of spending a bunch of money with a copywriter and then it changed and they felt kind of lost? I don't know, now what do I do?
The ones that have worked with other copywriters, and some of them that have worked with me, they've all had that experience. I'd say the ones that haven't have also never worked with a copywriter.
Got it. So you've kind of got 2 camps. One is they've had the experience with a copywriter and they felt burned, and the others, they just never hired a copywriter at all.
Yeah.
What percentage would you say are of each?
Oh, I would say right now, because I'm going for newer coaches, it's probably 60% new to working with a copywriter, 40% they've done it at least once before.
Yeah. I have the sense that it could be more direct in terms of the, I mean, this is almost probably too direct and too crass, but I just think there was an ad for a moving company, and their headline was something like, last year in Dallas, Texas, there were 3,652 lawsuits against moving companies in Dallas, Texas. Ask these 15 questions to protect yourself from an unpleasant moving experience. So it was just really naming that this is so I almost want to say something like, it costs this much. I want to get to that experience of if you're going to spend this much money, like, why spend this much money on a one-time thing? Why spend this much money when it's probably going to change? And I mean, part of this gets to also, and maybe this is spoken about on your homepage, but who it is, because to get the sense these are newer coaches.
Yes.
So I could see something like newer coaches, for newer coaches, copywriting is not a one-time expense. And I can even see just going into the, just saying, over the years I've worked with so many, I can see this above the fold, over the years I've worked with dozens of, new coaches who spent upwards of X amount of dollars to get the perfect homepage, the perfect sales page, only to discover, only to change and realize it wasn't relevant 6 months later. And and they felt, God, I can't afford to spend that much money again. So I decided to create some packages for new coaches that would actually grow with your business, banking on the fact that the words are going to have to change again soon. I could see saying something like that.
And maybe don't be afraid to go long, maybe you don't have to try to snug all of that into, 3 lines.
Yeah. I mean, I just think I could see that there. And, I like the perfectly normal and expected, because there's a point of view piece. It's like, look, if you're a new coach, it's normal, it's expected that you'll have to change it a few times, and you need a friend in your corner to do that. You don't need a one and done situation.
Oh, funny story. One of the clients that helped me have this epiphany, she changed her niche entirely after one of your bettering sessions.
Okay.
It was your fault. No, I give you all the credit. She's so excited now.
But yeah, that's my thought. I just think you could name the situation, because if you name that situation, the 40% who've had the experience will say, oh yes, and the 60% who haven't would say, oh, I'd never thought about that, but I can see. So I could just see you telling the kind of generic story of clients you've worked with. So it's like, hey, if you're a new coach, I just want to educate you. I just want to, here's the heads up. This is what you don't want to do. Like, whether you work with me or anyone else. And this to me is the core of point of view in marketing, is what we're fundamentally saying is, whether you work with me or you work with somebody else, here's the most important thing I want you to know. Yeah.
Let's see. When do you have your hard stop? Because I want to be respectful of your time.
I can go for a while.
Okay.
I've got another hour. Yeah.
All right. I want to be careful about that. Thank you so much for this. I'm gonna play with that and rework it.
Yeah.
What do you think of? I usually put point of view. I put that on my about pages, and you don't limit them to the about page. It's everywhere.
Everywhere. Point of view is not a particular color of thread. It's just thread. It's not a particular design you're weaving. It's just all the thread you're using. It goes through everything. It's on your bio. It's on your homepage. To me, one of the ways I speak about it, you want your website to be saturated in point of view. And of course, if the headline can have point of view in it as well, I just think that's compelling, because it's not always, but it's often one of the more unique things in somebody's business is their kind of angle, their take on it. So if you can have it right away, I think it just grabs people.
I love that. Okay, so here's one I wrote for one of my clients. This website is so where I feel very very proud and excited for her. But so my the approach I took with this, if Rebecca Tracy is very sort of like, here's what you want, here's what frustrates you. It's sort of like benefits plus that emotional component. And then this one is kind of the opposite in that it leads with the pain point of sort of that feeling, the emotion is overwhelm that I'm speaking to, feeling squeezed for time. And then it's that promise, like that sort of release of that pressure that you've built.
Mm-hmm. The thing that comes up initially is the purpose-driven business owners. I mean, I almost want to see that right at the top. Although it's interesting, I find myself wondering, just because that's who it's for, that's the name, but feeling squeezed for time. Because with the headline initially, a lot of people feel squeezed for time. So I guess, okay, so then I keep reading. Okay, how much more could you do if you took the marketing off of your plate entirely? It's, or even just business owners, I could see, I mean, it's so burned out in a way, but the attention business owners, or entrepreneurs.
I have that who it's for component, like moved up.
Yeah, I could see that. Just filtering wise, I'm a business owner. Yeah, I keep reading. The feeling squeezed for time, right? How much more could you do if you took marketing off of your plate entirely? Yeah, I think that's really clear. I mean, that's definitely something I hear from a lot of my clients. Like, oh, I just didn't have to do the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, that hit home.
Yeah.
Um,
or I could see another almost. I could see a headline being something like, I don't want to do the marketing. I just want to do what I love, in quotes.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And then, and then maybe this feeling squeezed for time. But yeah, that's a thought on this. It's clear. I mean, what I like about it is it's clear. There's always, and this has to be said with the headlines, is you can always tinker. You can always go for more relevance and resonance in the headline. But the most important thing is that it's clear, that when somebody reads it, they get it. They should be able to read it and just say, oh, that's me. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be clear. Clarity is the whole thing.
That's my number one goal with anything that I write. And sometimes it gets me into trouble because I sacrifice some fun, I sacrifice some whimsy to make sure that clarity is done. But then once you nail the clarity, then maybe you can tweak it to get a little bit more personality.
The heavy lifting is the clarity, and then you can add personality to it. Then you can spice it up a bit. Then you can, but because I see that people make the mistake is it's not clear. It's full of personality and it's unclear. And I remember, like, this is a true story. I don't know if you know who Van Jones is. He's a political commentator, activist from the States, and was also on House of Cards. Anyways, I knew him from back when I was living in the Bay Area. And we were at a conference at I think it was the Mohonk Retreat Center in New York for the Social Venture Institute. And I'm sitting at a table with him and this guy, Jim Potofsky. And Jim ran something called the Social Enterprise Alliance or something like this. And Jim was one of these guys everyone just loved. He was so charming. He was just sparkling in his conversation. One of these people you just felt really heard by and listened, and very inspiring. And anyways, we're all sitting there, we're eating, and he gets up and he leaves. And Van's girlfriend at the time turns to him and says, "What does Jim do?" And Van just says, "He impresses the shit out of me. I don't know what he does. He just impresses me." And I'll confess, we actually had no idea what he did, what the Social Enterprise Alliance, but we just were generally inspired by him. So this is great, but nobody will buy from you. It's that doesn't turn into contracts. It turns into, "Jim, come to our party later on." That's what it turns into. So clarity is really actually important if you want business. If you want friends, develop a great personality. If you want business, there's got to be some clarity about what the hell you're doing, who it's for, what the problem is that you solve, what the result is that you offer.
I love that, and weirdly, the next page kind of pairs really nicely, because I picked this one because it was so just, this is what I do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I simplify tech systems for online coaches. Boom. I mean, that's enormously clear. Yes, you can spend less time on tech, more time with your clients. Figuring out the tech shouldn't get between you and doing what you love, helping your clients.
Right.
Yeah, that's boom. It's very clear, and of course, it's also, in my experience, this is absolutely something coaches struggle with. So I just see a coach reading that and saying, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, right.
I want to know more about this." And this is the thing, the language doesn't always have to be emotional. It's just that there has to be some emotion about the issue, because if your clients are apathetic about it, it doesn't matter how, you have a really bad problem. No, this is really bad, this could hurt you, I guess. It doesn't matter from the outside if it seems bad, and we all know people like this who have their lives have huge problems. From the outside, it's like, this, you're going to get divorced. You got to stop playing video games, dude. You got to pay attention to your marriage. If there's no emotional intensity on their side in their experience, it doesn't matter. So it's not that the headline has to, I think people think we have to manufacture emotion in the headline. No, we just have to acknowledge it. But sometimes you can just, and in this one, I think there's probably some, of course, frustration and exasperation. And sometimes you can name that, but sometimes you just name the situation and it's all there. You don't have to belabor it and bludgeon people with it, as long as it's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, if I was going to go back and tweak this, I would do some experiments, try an emotional one, try something that was more fun and had more personality, see which one worked better.
But it's clear, so I like it.
Okay, so this last one, I'm being real harsh with myself because it is a work in progress. It is nowhere near done, but I wanted to talk to you about it because I think this is something that a lot of new coaches, and that Hannah Wilson is a new coach. She's so incredibly gifted. I'm actually recommending her to a friend of mine because I think they'll make sparks happen. But with this work in progress homepage draft, it's that problem of when you are a coach and you have been trained, you can pretty much apply that training to a lot of situations, a lot of kinds of discomfort. And what we are working towards is really developing her point of view, her argument. But I call it an argument, that women, young women particularly, that's her target group, they are convinced that happiness comes when you have all of these external things, when you've got the great job, when you've got the great partner, when you've got the great house and the dog and the, all those external things. And her argument is that no, you've actually got to work on your inner happiness first, so you have some resilience. And I'm not, in this incarnation of this page, I'm not there yet. I'm nowhere near there yet. But I wanted to address this issue because I think it's one of those things that a lot of newer coaches have problems with. And I think it's actually a really good way to really get into some depth about the importance of point of view.
Well, I think what I'm craving in this is to hear what the breaking point is, which is a good way into a lot of these things. I hear they're struggling. I hear they want to be happy. And they want to live their best life, all those things. But that's kind of true for everyone. And a lot of people can go through their whole life with those things, unachieved, unfulfilled, and not be miserable about it. And usually, though, there's a point where it all changes. There's a breaking point where they're finally, something's happened now, and they're willing to take it seriously. Another way to look at it is there's a perfect moment to show up in their life. There's a moment it's too soon, there's a moment it's too late, and then there's the sweet spot. So what I get from this is a sort of general wash of the a kind of a milieu of the person, their situation, but I don't get the moment. And so that's what I'm craving to hear is, what is it that has happened just recently in their life that has them start to think, boy, I really need to deal with this. The most compelling part of this for me is
See if I can make
you feel
this.
frustrated, ashamed that you don't have the career down.
Oh no, I made it too big. Hang on. Okay, now which part was it?
At the bottom of the page.
Okay.
There, yeah, if you don't have the career, the soulmate, the lifestyle you want. Yeah, like that whole, yeah. There's something about, there's that moment where it's, and part of it, I think, I would imagine, because it's millennials and it sounds like she's trying to reach women, is they're hitting that point where it's, I'm getting older. And I thought I would have these things in place by now, and now I'm scared I might not.
Yes.
I do want a family. I do want all these things, and maybe there's also a realization, boy, I've been wasting my time too much. Maybe I'm going out to the bar still too much. Maybe I'm watching too much Netflix, and something happens. And this is where in copywriting, and sometimes this can be a very good headline or sub-headline, where you start to name the moments. Maybe this has happened in your life, this has happened, this has happened. I often call it the top three. What are the top three circumstances where these things have happened, and you're now you're paying attention in a new way, and maybe they're starting to think, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, I want to have these things. So then it could be that the result is, let me help you create the 10-year game plan, to create the kind of life that you want. And sometimes the moment could be, by the way, let's say they're working an office job, and they look at this, I don't know, 45, 55-year-old, 65-year-old woman, and they see a life that horrifies them.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I remember a friend of mine was saying she was at the hospital, she's a nurse, and she knew she didn't want to stick around much longer. And a nurse made a comment about, well, 20 years from now when we're here and this happens, and she just looked at her like, I'm not going to be here in 20 years. But if you don't have a plan of what else you're going to do, so there, or, for guys, it might be, you're going out to the bar, and then you see that old dude sitting at the bar, and you're like, wait, I've seen him here for the last 10 years. I don't want to become that guy. Oh God. And you start to see, maybe I'm on the trajectory of that, or whatever it is. There's often, I call it Island Z, there's Island A, that's the problem that you have, that you don't want the symptoms. Island B is the results you're craving. But Island Z is like this, don't let this happen to me. So there may be something that happens that kind of wakes them up, and, oh, I got to do something. So these are my thoughts on this.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I can't wait to take this to her. I asked her if we could do this with her rough draft, and she's like, yes. So thank you. Okay, those are all the pages I've got lined up, but do you have any other thoughts on headlines in general?
Well,
or anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's it. I've got some headlines we could look at as well on my side.
Yes, I can stop share and maybe, let's see. There we go.
I wonder if I can, host is disabled, screen sharing.
Let's see. Let's see. Advanced sharing options, all participants. I know what I'm doing.
But while you're working on that, I'll just say, for everyone with headlines, so as you can see, it's not a lot of words. It's a simple thing. You're coming up with a simple sentence, and it should read real easy. Nickel words, not 50-cent words. Just like people speak, like you'd be speaking to a 12-year-old. Not to ask too much of people, just burned out in their lives. I don't think we want to. It's not very gracious. Somebody shows up to your website, and then suddenly we overwhelm them with too much. And I mean, this is what you don't want to do in copywriting, is just make people fight to read it. Long paragraphs, long sentences, huge words that they probably they won't understand, using multiple languages or whatever, and because you're asking a lot of people and they're already giving you their time, so it's just there's a kind of courtesy of, okay, you're overwhelmed, I get it. Yeah. So okay, let's see if we can.
I think you can share now.
Aha, here we go. Screen share. Okay, so are we screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, so here's one. This is a life coach who's in my mentorship program. Most of these are.
Beautiful site.
Yeah, her name's Annie from Australia, and I just like this as so she's a life coach for moms, and this question of, why am I putting so much pressure on myself to be a perfect mom, and why can't I stop?
Ooh, oh, I've got a friend I need to send this to.
Okay, there you go. So loveyourjourney.net, that's your thing. And so I just love this because this is an example of point of view appearing in the thing. It's point of view, but it's also a symptom. As we spoke, it just became clear that this was what she saw for so many moms, is they put so much pressure on themselves. But she realized her ideal client, the perfect moment to show up, is where they've actually begun to realize, wait a second, this is crazy. I'm being a perfectionist as a parent. Like, I had these visions for myself when I didn't have kids, when kids were fictional. And I'm realizing it isn't like that, but I still can't stop with the beating myself up for not being perfect. And I'm confused. Why can't I stop? Because I read the books and the Eckhart Tolle and the Brene Brown, and I know I shouldn't be so hard on myself, but I can't stop. So why? So I just thought it's a very honest thing to say.
I love that. I have nothing to add. That just hits to this pain point that I've witnessed in some of my friends who have kids, and just nails it.
Yeah, I really like that one. And then, this one. So oh man, we worked so hard on this. A fellow David Taylor from the UK, and he does these incredible videos where he does an interview. Basically, he sits with them. He's not on camera, but it's black and white. He films people, and he does basically an interview. Mostly it's just him listening and creating this kind of space for people where they feel safe enough and can speak, and where their real personality comes out. Because of course, as you're saying with the infomercial thing, I've seen this in videos where people are clearly reading from a script, or you can tell they feel very uncomfortable and wouldn't on video, and they come across like this, and and it actually hurts them because they come across so artificially. So, but it's a big problem because I've put me on stage. That's always been fine. Video, I feel comfortable, but not everyone does, and so he kind of is there for that. But we went back and forth. I'm like, what the hell is the main issue? And then I like this headline. It said. So it's kind of a quote from the client saying, I really want to make and share creative and engaging videos for my service-based business, but I don't want to come across like that. That I've seen people see so many videos online. It's like, oh God, they're so salesy. They're so pushy. They're so, I do want to make videos, but do I have to do that? Do I have to do the infomercial shtick? Do I have to do this scripted, like, have you been struggling with this? Are you tired of this? And we've all seen the ones where it's, somebody gave you advice that was a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
And it's painful. It's really painful. So I just thought that we kept circling around what was the issue. And the issue was they want to do it, but the thing that holds them back is they're so scared of coming across in that way.
I love that. And that came from client language, didn't it? That's just like taking maybe tweaking the quote a little bit to get, here's what I do in there. But that really is, and I love that. Just when you get that customer research down, when you've done your surveys, when you've done your client interviews, and you've taken word for word notes, sometimes that magic phrase will just appear, and it's your job to figure out which one it is.
Yeah, often that's one of the hardest parts, because sometimes there'll be 10 that are great, and you have to there's actually a technical marketing term. Not a lot of people even in the industry have heard about this one, for discerning, which headline is the one to go with. It's called guessing. It's advanced, but but yeah, you just have to roll the dice. You have to kind of intuit and, okay, if I had to pick, and sometimes you can combine them, of course, and all that. I like this too. Then below it says, you see those videos on your timeline, too slick, too showy, too scripted, too sleazy even. You might cringe a little when you see them. Yes, that. It really puts you off making a video for your business, even though you know it's a great idea.
Oh,
So
I love that.
I could even see that going above the fold, but anyways, I just think that works pretty well. And then, oh man, okay, this is one of my favorite ones. I'm most proud of ever. My marketing career is marked by this one. I'm pretty happy with it. So this is a woman who does a lot of ceremonial ancestral healing stuff. And as we were working together, she said she realized, I noticed that it seemed like a lot of her clients grew up in fundamentalist Christian homes. I said, what percent would you say? She said, oh, 80%. I said, would you be happy if 80% of your clients forever had struggled with that? Oh yeah, that'd be great. So I said, well, why don't we focus on that? So this is her sales page for her program. And so I love this.
Wow.
Want to be a witchy healer, but grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home. Support for the aspiring closet good witches, heathens, elders, and trainees recovering from a fucked up childhood.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. That just brings me joy.
She almost said messed up, but I encouraged her to say fucked up, and she did, which is good.
I'm
And then,
so glad you did. I've got this whole theory from one of my clients. I can't take credit for it, about strategically using F-bombs in your copy, because it's a filter that will filter out some people that you don't want to work with. The sort of the people who are like, oh, you used a swear word. If that's not the kind of person you want to work with, use those swear words. I've got an F-bomb on my site and I forget it's there, and people remind me, like, you used an F-bomb on your website. I loved it.
And sometimes it's just for a punch. Sometimes it just says it. It's the best. Sometimes you have to use an expletive because it's the only thing that conveys the emotional intensity of the situation. And then the other part down here, it's not the headline, but was where is it? So let's see if I can find it. Oh, there we go. Yeah. To make it worse, now you're drawn to witchy dirt worshipping things. I just like dirt worshipping as a phrase. Anyways. So,
Me too.
I like this because it's very clear on the issue. You want to be a witchy healer, but you grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home. That's a real discernible something of, yeah, I'm drawn to all this pagan stuff, but I'm gonna burn in hell, and my parents, what will they think? So I like that one. And then this one, a woman from Australia, Bernadette. She's a life coach, and what we really honed in on. So I hope what people are hearing is you're hearing all these preambles into the things, because the preamble is the setup for the amble. It's there's a process of figuring out what is the niche, what's the issue, and then there's a wording of it. Now there's the wordsmithing. But what we're going for is the kernel first. So once we've got that, now we can tinker with the exact wording. But
how do you get your clients to get to be willing to be a bit braver, a bit bolder with their language? Because that is some friction I always hit up against with my clients, because coaches tend to be very nice and they don't want to offend anybody, and they want to sort of play safe and careful with their website language, and that just sucks the power right out of it. Like, you wouldn't get a fucked up childhood if you were afraid to call it what it is.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes this takes time. People need to ease into it, because the truth is there are real consequences if you tell the truth about your opinion.
Yeah.
You could lose status and relationships in your community. I mean, let's just imagine you're a holistic healer, and you come out as, look, I'm against vaccines, or even worse, I'm for vaccines. And
right. Consequences either way.
Either way, there really are consequences. You will lose people. There are certain things, if you start to be candid about, certain colleagues of yours will stop talking about you. Now, the truth is, and that's to honor the reality. That's true. The truth is, your clients are barely checking out your website, and your colleagues never look at your website. So the chance of them seeing it is actually very small. And it's interesting with Bernadette, she actually changed her homepage, so I won't go into it, but she does. The work she focuses on is overgiving. working with people who fundamentally are trapped in a pattern of overgiving, and she's changed it. So we'll move on. Here it is. Boom. Sleepatlast.com is Hillary. She was in my mentorship program. She's a health coach, wanted to focus on sleep. Wish you could get a great night's sleep. Oh, it's clear. It's real simple. Now you can. A 2-month intensive coaching program to help you get blissful, consistent, uninterrupted deep sleep every night.
That is not easy to do, by the way.
Right.
That's not a given.
So I just think it's very clear. Could this be tinkered with? Possibly, but I just think the result has been, boom, it's been named, imagine falling asleep effortlessly. So I just think
is there a place on that page where she goes into things you've already tried? Because I feel like the Sleepless Club have, yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, here we go. But not as, there's a more in-depth version of this that I wish you would have on her sales page. But yeah, you've probably already tried holistic approaches, things that calm you down, sleep apps, more radical steps, medications. Nothing is working, right? So why is nothing working? So here she goes into the point of view.
Oh, nice.
This is my take on what's going on. To say it another way, you're trying too hard. To say it another way, you've taught your body not to sleep. And she has a whole bit about the yin and yang and how this culture is at war with the yin. Really extraordinary stuff.
That's a very strong point of view.
It's that was the thing that grabbed me most about her work. And we actually just did a interview where we did a point of view case study where we delved into her whole thing. It's on my YouTube. Okay, and then yoga teacher training. So this is a fellow old friend of mine, Derek Casilius, who's in my mentorship program. And one of the things actually is we changed the name of the business from Access Yoga to the Denver Yoga Underground, because point of view wise, he had a kind of underground sensibility, both literally in that his classes were in a church, which I think was kind of below the ground, but also he just has this kind of like, I'm an outsider, misfit ethic. And so there's yoga teacher training, so in this what I like about it, deepen your knowledge of the lineage-based yoga. So it's saying something very specific. This is yoga with lineage. So if you're interested in that, here it is. Training the art of teaching, become a secret agent of good in the world, which I think speaks to the kind of craving that people would have of, why they want to be a yoga teacher in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about levels of awareness, because at my level of awareness, which is I take yoga classes, I would not know what lineage-based yoga is, but his ideal clients, clearly, they know what that is. And that's who he's speaking to. He's not speaking to me or, the total beginner yogi.
Yeah, the thing I'm realizing that I'm wanting, sometimes this is just heads up for people on the headlines, is, let's see, early bird discount ends July 9th. I like to see the dates just right up top if it's a program like this, because I'm like, when is this? How long is this? So I tend to like the type of thing where it's a 2-month program that does this, weekly this, just right away, something to give people something to hang their hat on, because otherwise it's amazing how confused people can get quickly. And we want to start them off, I think, with just here's what it is. If it's something like this, if it's a program, it's an online program, it's a live program, it's this long, it's, weekly calls. I tend to just like to get the basics out, to give them an architecture, because otherwise they get halfway through and they actually don't even know what they're reading. Is this live? Is this one-on-one? Is this a group thing? Is this, yeah. So I think that's important. And then, oh wait, this was, no. Oh, interesting. He's changed his,
Yeah, I find my clients doing this to me all the time, which is why I started the evolutionary copy. It's like, I know you're going to do it anyway.
So, but this is an interesting one in terms of, because what's the ultimate headline of your business? It's the name of your business often. And sometimes people go with their name, but uncage your business, is an example of it's saying something you're doing with your business. Marketing for hippies is this kind of oxymoron to it. But so when Sean, who lives in Switzerland, is an Irish fellow, came to join my mentorship program, it was called WPStrands.com.
Ooh.
So WordPress is the WP. Strands, I still don't. I have no idea. And it was so confusing. I could never remember. And I'd be teaching workshops wanting to refer clients to him. But so finally, we did the brainstorm. This is a similar thing you can do with the headline. But I said, well, we have to change the business name because I can't remember it. And I'm working with you. And I also hired him. He's my WordPress guy. I'm actively paying him. He's a client, and I still can't remember his URL. So I said, brainstorm 25 URLs. Let's just riff on it. And this was one of them. So we both agreed this is the one, WordPress for Good, because he wants to work with kind of conscious social enterprise businesses. He doesn't want to work with anyone. And so it's, WordPress websites for these good businesses, but also that they would stick around for good, for a long time. So the headline we used to have is WordPress essential for your business? Or is WordPress critical for your business? Was the headline, but I see it's changed to doing good with your business. We can help WordPress support for a better world. That's fine too. So he's really doubled down, as you can see, on the ethical thing. Your choice for sustainable, globally responsible WordPress technical support and maintenance. You can see he's now, who we work with, courageous entrepreneurs, B Corps. So if you know what a B Corp is, you'd be extra drawn to him. Good people doing good things. What we do, this is great. He's made it very just quick and visual. Website maintenance, technical support, strategic advice. So he's made it real simple. Real simple. And then his pricing is great too, if he hasn't changed it as well. But there we go. Boom, 3 tiers. Boom, boom, boom.
I love that, especially for anything technology related, especially if you are targeting sort of the heart-centered business owners. We tend not to be that technically adept. And you've got to make that, if that's your business, you've got to make it really simple, because we're already expecting to be overwhelmed by tech stuff.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed real easy with tech stuff.
And then this is a Kasuma Sparks, and she makes nighties. So beautyandvirtue.com, threading the needle between artistry, empowerment, comfort, ethics, and exquisite beauty. And so, but I like, in some ways, the headline is this.
Yeah.
I make nighties. It's just simple. This is what I do. There's the sort of text, and then I guess she isn't even wearing it.
But let's just take a second with that, because it's so short.
Yeah.
And it's not what, if I was hitting this cold, if she came to me as a client, she's like, I make these nightgowns, and she describes them, and I would probably try to be way more descriptive. Like, I make nightgowns for women who want to go, scampering across a field of wheat, and you might not get there, but you can look like you do. Like, I would wax poetical, and she didn't. And I love that.
Yeah, very simple. But I mean, she does get into a lot of the point of view, like, why nighties?
Yeah. I mean, women's empowerment, how does that connect to night? I don't.
Right. And then she has the women's empowerment. Yeah. Because I challenged her, and I said, wouldn't you think that fashion is vain and just surface? And she said, no. And she has a really compelling point of view and philosophy around the importance of fashion and textiles in our lives. And but
oh my gosh, hang on, what does she have?
This is the wrong page it's linked to. That's about my clients.
That is fascinating. Like, I'm not a fit for you for a nightgown. Like, not that I don't have your size, because I get that a lot. But no, this is about so much more than what you wear to bed.
Yeah, she's got this whole clothing as empowerment.
That's fascinating. I've never seen anybody take that approach.
This is, in terms of point of view, I think she's got one of the most point of view saturated websites I've come across. Okay, but just one last one is, this is Yarrow Healing. This is Rachel Warrington from Victoria. I just love this headline. Have you had a persistent pain or mysterious body symptom for a while and are beginning to wonder if it has emotional roots, but have no idea how to find out what they might be and how to release or resolve them? So this came from, she realized, a lot of people came with like, I got this thing. The doctor says he can't figure out what it is. I don't know what it is. And so I said, okay, well, that's good. But then as we spoke more, it became clear that in her mind, it was obviously about there's some emotional something going on that's causing it, for the most part, that's worth checking out. I said, well, do you think your client, do they come sort of already thinking, yeah, most of them, they already, great. Well, let's just name that, because that's the bullseye. And this is a good thing to say too about niche, but also headlines is, well, I think when we're writing copy, we're ideally trying to write it for the perfect client we have. That's who we have in mind. And we're writing to them. We're not writing to everyone. We're thinking, who do I really want to work with? And everything is to that bullseye. And it's not a binary though, because the truth is you're aiming for the bullseye. And maybe it depends how skillful you are with your copywriting. But let's say you hit it. You really do hit it. You really articulate who it's for and what it does. Well, there's going to be people who are one ring out on the bullseye, but they might read it and say, well, that's pretty close to me. I can see it's not perfect, but I'm still interested, or 2 rings out or 3 rings out. And then it's up to you at what point you say, no, you're too far out. But it's not an either or. It's not like they're a perfect fit or they're nothing, which I think people get scared of. And it's one of the reasons people don't narrow in. It's one of the reasons people don't put their point of view on, because they think it's like a light switch. But in reality, it's more like a horoscope. You read a horoscope and most of it's inaccurate, but it's like, you will visit an old man today. I just saw my grandfather today. It's like, yeah, but it's a page-long thing, and that was the only thing that was true. Yeah, but that's real true. So people will do this with sales copy. They'll find the one thing that's 100% them, and and if that can be the headline, then they're likely to lean in and want to know more. So
I'm writing a note to write more about why sales copy is like a horoscope.
Yeah, it doesn't all have to land. It's just something has to land. It doesn't all have to be perfect. It just, some of it has to be true enough for them that now they want to read more. Now there's some credibility, there's some trust, because of course there's some sales pages we read and nothing. Or it's there's also the difference between what I call shallow and wide relevance versus narrow and deep. And of course, for the most part with copywriting, we're leaning towards narrow and deep.
Yeah.
Because the shallow and wide is, are you struggling in your life? Do you have problems? Would you like better results?
I see so many coaches doing that page.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, you'd read it, and only a fool would say that's not me. Well, so of course that's me. I'd like to be happier. I'd like to have more success. Oh, healthier? Sure. To what? Better relationships? Why not? Money? Golly. But it's so surface. There's no particularity to it. And of course you can get too narrow. You could, this is a attention Doctor Who fans Nemeton, whoever, replica David Tennant costume, and used to have all the action figures, still have some of the books. You'd be writing to me, Tad Hargrave. But that's too narrow. So this is of course the art, is you're going for the sweet spot, is how narrow can you get it where there's enough, and then write only to those people, knowing you will get spillover, not just from people reading the thing, but your clients will then say, hey, I know you work with single dads who've gone through a divorce. I got a friend who's a single dad and he's not gone through a divorce, but he might. I think soon his relationship is on the rocks. So would you work with him? Or I got a friend who's a single dad, but he's a widower, and maybe. Or I got a friend, he's a single dad, but they never got married, or whatever, Or I've got a friend who's married but doesn't have kids, but they'll keep sending you people. If you're really getting them results, you'll be getting referrals and word of mouth. And then again, it's up to you in every situation. Do you want to say yes or no? But you can be explicit without being exclusive. You can be very specific without pushing anyone away. But if you're never explicit in the first place, of course, you just attract everybody, which means nobody's particularly into it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, people think they want to attract everybody. They think they want to, be toilet paper. Everybody uses toilet paper. If you look at the toilet paper aisle, you will see that even toilet paper has niched down.
Right, you've got the soft, you've got the cheap,
the strong, the one that doesn't shred and leave weird bits. Like, they've really niched to people who have, like, fairly minor first world problems with toilet paper, but they feel very strongly about them.
And it's interesting, people think, well, well, niching doesn't work. And I just want to say, literally walk down any busy street with a lot of stores on it, and you'll just see every single store is niched. There's no such thing as a non-niche. There's even the general store, that's a niche. The corner store, that's a particular thing. There's no such thing as everything for everybody. Everything is a something. And the unwillingness to do that, one of the places that shows up most strongly is the headline. So this is why the headline is so important, just to make the case for it, is if somebody goes to your website, what's happening above the fold, what you see here, that's literally all you've got. Especially if they're not being referred. They're just coming, click, happen to find you, see you on Facebook, click on the thing. Well, that's all they've got. And they can be forgiven for looking at it and saying, oh, that's not relevant to me, and clicking to go away. Or, oh, well, maybe I'll check that later. They go to save it, but of course they never come back. So it has to grab them. The headline is in my mind 90% of the sales letter, because if you get it right, it's if you really nail the headline, and you speak to such an issue that's so important to them, they'll be kind of forgiving, and they'll read that. It's like the initial boost of like a jetpack or something that will, it's like you've hit the gas, you floored it, and that will take them pretty far in your sales letter. Even if the rest, and now if you totally drop the promise and you don't, it's a poor sales letter from there, they will drop off at a certain point, but it will drive them, I don't know, maybe halfway down just on momentum from that. But if you don't get the headline right, they'll just, it's over. And
no pressure.
The rest of it. Go ahead.
No pressure.
It's a lot. And where does the headline come from? Well, it has its roots in my mind in the niche work and the point of view work. Yeah. Those two kind of marry, and probably a few things in between and besides.
I'd throw client language in there, but that comes from that niche and that point of view, because that's how you find the ideal clients that you're going to take the words from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because the client language, but wait, who are the clients?
Yeah.
Because everybody's like just going to go out in the street and, hey, what do you think I should put on my headline? For what? I haven't figured it out. You got some words for me?
That would be like the best, worst website ever. I almost want to make that website to show people.
One thing I wanted to just touch on before we left is you had a really compelling idea of picking a fight. In a headline. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that, and if you have any examples, that would be great. And I will stop sharing.
So picking a fight, when we were talking about point of view, like the first thing that came to my mind, because I wasn't that familiar with your approach to point of view, and the approach that I was familiar with is picking a fight, which is a copywriting technique that we use kind of as a differentiator. Like, you are picking a fight with a big idea that's already out there that you disagree with, or that you have a certain perspective on, a certain argument with. Like, my pick a fight is, I don't think new coaches should have to spend an arm and a leg on their copy, because your copy is going to change. And that's my fight, because I did so much research.
That's the headline. What you just said, that's almost word for word. I might have that as the headline for that page.
Awesome. I'm going to try that. Yes. So that's the fight I like to pick. And I think Rebecca Tracy does, like, she starts you off doing a rant, which is kind of picking a fight. It's getting that sort of nugget of a point of view in there. But I wanted, like, what I've gotten from you, and what I'm really going to embrace in the copy that I write moving forward, is picking a fight in a much bigger way, like not just sticking that on my about page, but actually infusing that into everything that I do, because I really strongly believe that this particular problem of this particular niche is being grossly underserved and misserved. Is that a thing? It's a thing.
Sure.
So yeah, and it's compelling. Picking a fight is compelling because, first of all, everybody loves an argument. Right. But it's also setting you apart from what everybody else has seen.
And, it's interesting. In my ebook, Point of View Marketing, there's a section about rants. because I realized that the blog post that I'd written that got the most traction, the most shares, the most views, I would have thought, honestly, it would have been the 15 secrets to this, the tactical, how-to, practical things, but it was the rants. Most of them had the word bullshit in them. Why stop playing small is bullshit. Why charging what you're worth is bullshit. I think were two of them. But so it's a useful way in. What is the stuff in your industry that you think is bullshit?
Yeah.
And it may not be there for you. There may not be anything, and it's good not to force this or try to pretend that you're indignant about something you're not. But if there is something, this happened with a client of mine. She does grantschampion.com, and she helps people write grants for nonprofits. And she also has a real critique about the whole granting because it's, of course, a dwindling pot of money with a growing number of people who need it. And the world seems to be just waiting for billionaires to buy up parts of the planet to preserve them. And, is this what it's become? Just the billionaires are heroes. And then you get the Carnegies who made fortunes crippling people and then made themselves famous. And what a great reputation because they gave out crutches, basically, So she had an opinion about this, but she wasn't sharing it. And I just kept encouraging, Yana, just rant. Just let it rip. Just give her. And one day she something happened, she boiled over and she sent an email to her list and of course got more response on that email than any email she'd sent. So it is a risky thing to take that step but I would just say if you feel yourself bubbling over, one of the greatest headlines that got the most response Jay Abraham wrote was something like, I've got to get this off my chest before I explode. And that was the headline. And so it's a good headline.
Yeah.
But more what I like about it is what it speaks to is that feeling of there is a genuine place you can get to in your life of, if I don't say something about this, I'm going to erupt. So I got to say this. I got to put it out. And that can be a very powerful headline. The picking a fight, whether you call it that or you're taking a stand, you're ranting, you're just, look, I can't stand it. Here's what I think about this. And it's good I just think it's important to be very honest about, because your client's going to find this out about you anyways. So it's like, writing a dating profile. There's certain things you should probably just put in your dating profile because it will be a deal breaker later. Like, do you have kids? This is just probably good to name. Do you, anyways, so I like this idea of, in a headline, something provocative of, if you see this in the, like Allegra Stein, allegrastein.com, she's in my mentorship program, and she had she's been a life coach for years and really struggled with the niche. And she had worked with me as well in my mentorship program. She just came back for round 2, but she saw that the challenge in, I gotta plug in my laptop before it does. The challenge was that the niching schools or the coaching schools were just saying, well, just pick one target market and that's it, and then it's all good. But of course, it felt premature. And she said, no, there's more to niching. There's how you do it. There's also who you are as a coach and your kind of personality, your vibe, your gifts and your strengths. And so she just saw a much more expansive thing. And she did a 20-minute video, which just spoke to this about what she saw, the problems with the whole approach to niching. And she had so many coaches, and she wasn't even pitching anything, but so many coaches reached out to her saying, oh my God, you're singing my song. And I would just say this, if it's boiling over in you, it's boiling over in other people too.
Yes.
The fact that it's boiling over in you is a sign that you're not alone. Almost guaranteed. The fact that you're having that reaction, other people are probably having the same thing. So if you're willing to write to it, if it's feeling that intense for you, it's feeling that intense for others, which means just by naming it, you'll get that kind of a visceral response. And instead of a sort of like, meh, neat, cool, oh, good. Because what we don't want is we want our clients to read the headline specifically and to say, there's this whole ebook I've got called The Art of Relevance that I suppose is primarily about headlines. It's just about the problem and the result. But we want people to say, that's me, not that's nice.
I love that. I want people to say that's me, not that's nice.
Whoa, because
I'm gonna get that tattooed on my arm.
right,
Not really, but if I was into needles, I would totally do that.
yeah, because if they say that's nice, it's affirming, wasn't that? That's good, it's encouraging, but we don't want people that like, oh, go get them, Tiger. So proud of you. But that's not them buying. And what we want are customers. And that only happens when somebody, for a service, now for a product, it's a whole different conversation to have, related but different. But for a service, for a coach, for something like this, they have to be able to read it. And to the extent that in a narrow and deep way, they say, oh my God, that's me. Holy shit. Even in the headline. And in the headline, you can give people, I mean, I don't want to make this too overwrought, but you can give people the gift of really being seen. Of wow, which is why I love Larissa's about the, do you want to be a witchy healer but grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home? I just think that's very real. I think there are a lot of people who would read that and say, oh my God,
Yes.
that's completely me and where I'm at. That's the moment I'm at. And that's all we're trying to do is to name, articulate, express a moment that people are in. The story, it's like, here's the chapter title of the story of your life right now. And they read it and say, boy, that really is me. And that's what buys us God, people's time is very precious, and we shouldn't take that for granted. And that's what kind of earns us the right or buys us the chance to then do the rest of the work of copywriting, which is a whole other conversation.
Yes.
Anyways, all that to say, everything, if you followed my work at all and you're watching this around Island A, Island B, around niching, around target markets, ideal client, it's the headline is where it all appears. It all gets kind of tied in and then expanded later, importantly, but that's where it appears. So it's the headline is in martial arts, they have the dojo, where you go and you work out and you practice this stuff. And I just think the headline is that's the black belt, because if you can get that, the rest of it will be easy. But if you can't get that, the rest of it's impossible.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for this. This has been so much fun.
I agree. Well, and you've got, do you want to?
Yeah, let me plug the thing that I'm doing tomorrow. Oh my gosh, it's tomorrow. For 5 seconds. I am teaching a Write Your Own Sales Page in a Week workshop with Rebecca Tracy, and she's at Uncage Your Business. And I will post the link to that page. But what we're doing is I'm going to teach a workshop with a template that I wrote myself. It's 18 pages long. It's everything you ever wanted to know about how to write a really effective sales page, including a lot about headlines and different ways to do them. And I teach that workshop. It'll be 2 hours tomorrow at 11 Pacific, but there's also going to be a recording if you can't make it. And then you get a week to write the actual sales page from the template using everything that, all of the wisdom. And then we come back for another 2 hours and we take 2 students' sales pages and we work them live. We tweak, we revise, we say, this is working, this isn't, here's why. It's really informative, really instructive. And my favorite part is there's going to be a private Facebook group for people who do this right now. And I'm going to be in there all week. So if you get stuck, if you get writer's block, if you have like a low-level panic attack because you're writing a long-form sales page, I can actually come in and help you. And I like that. It gives me so much joy. Okay, so I'm going to post the link to that in the comments of this video. Keep an eye out. It's tomorrow. It is July 8th. So get on that if you need to write it.
People join late, or what's the story?
Yes. Yeah, I asked Becca, and she's like, yes, people can join late. The live page, the page where you sign up isn't going to go away. So you can just sign up and then she'll get the video to you.
Okay, great. And how often are you and Becca doing this?
Once a year. So it's like, now or next summer. So
Well, and I imagine if people want to work with you outside of this, they're watching this and the date's long gone and it's not going to be for another 6 months. What other services do you offer?
thank you so much for helping me market myself, because I'm a really good copywriter when it's on the website. Content marketing, I'm still learning. Got to be upfront about that. You can find me at truerwordsbylauren.com, and I do copywriting for coaches, newer coaches. I love so much. And you can work with me in a few ways at lower price points with the expectation that copy is going to change. We're going to need to come back and make changes and updates and improvements.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for making the time. I know we both got to get going, but so everyone, I encourage you to check it out. This isn't something I offer help with outside of my mentorship program. So if you're looking for help with copy, go check out Lauren's stuff, and work on those headlines. And I think that's it. All right, take care, everyone.
Thanks so much. Oh.
All right. So are we still recording?
Yeah, hang on.